2022. Most of you know that I'm Gillian Bickley. With my husband, Werner, I'm co-founder of the Proverse Prizes for unpublished writing submitted in English, or maybe in translation. And also with Werner, I'm co-publisher of Proverse Hong Kong. We're delighted that you came. Very happy that you can share the event with us. And we hope that next time, if COVID-19 has dampened down and people's reaction to it have changed, so that we can have more people at the event, that would be even better. One of the launching authors this evening was born in South Korea, and for this reason, we particularly welcome Mr. Lee Yong-ho, Consul of the Korean Consulate General and the Director of the Korean Cultural Center in Hong Kong. We regret that Miss Susanna Susie Morley, Director of the British Council in Hong Kong and Macau, who planned to attend, cannot do so, as she is a close contact of a COVID-19 sufferer and needs to self-isolate. We hope all will be well soon. We're happy to say that former Director of the British Council in Hong Kong and Macau, Mr. Jeff Streeter, who was with us at a few recent Proverse receptions, has kindly agreed to be one of the international team of Proverse Prize's honorary advisors. We're pleased that Proverse authors, well, Catherine isn't here yet, will be here. Catherine Chinlow, Mr. Roger Nguyen from Australia are with us. We send good wishes to Proverse author Mr. Philip Chatting, who also pleased to be here, as he is down with COVID himself. Also with us are poets whose work has been, or will soon be published, in the Proverse Poetry Prize's anthologies, the Mingled Voices series. Shika Bansal is not here yet, Sadie Kay is not here yet, Janice is not here yet, Louisa is here, and Roger, who we've already mentioned. This reception will include several announcements. We'll announce the winners of the 2021 Proverse Prize, the winners of the 2022 Proverse Poetry Prize, single poems, Catherine. Can you see where Catherine is? Catherine next to you?
Oh,
yes,
thank
Catherine,
you.
you're here. Can you manage to squeeze in? Just announce. We'll just mention your name. So the winners of the 2022 Proverse Poetry Prize single poems and the semi-finalists of the 2022 Proverse Prize. We'll launch 5 books and relaunch 1 book. All 6 writers will give a brief introduction to their work, 2 in person, 4 online. Copies of all 6 titles are available for purchase and or order this evening. We're most grateful to Hong Kong Arts Development Council for supporting the event. Some housekeeping points and requests. We all need to remain at our tables without moving around. If we do need to leave our table, we should please wear our masks. Drinks will be served to the table. A bit late now because we stopped serving drinks, but the canapé will be served, and drinks will be served again at the end. Book purchase. To avoid breaching social distancing by having a busy book table, we put 1 copy of the launching and 1 relaunching book on each table for you to see. If you'd like a copy, please use one of the envelopes on the table. Write your name on it, the book titles you want, and put your cash or check or whatever inside. Or you can pay by email to proverse@netification.com using PayPal Me Proverse Hong Kong. And make a note on the envelope saying what you've done. Then just go to the book table and pick up your book yourself. Honestly. There's a scattering of other books on the book table. If you'd like one of those, please follow a similar procedure. I hope you will consider purchasing generously. The more books you purchase, the more books you can publish. The program consists of a mixture of live and video interventions. If you're sitting at the oblong table, you're free to put on your masks and come forward if you can't see. Right? Or if you've got a mobile phone, you can log on to the YouTube channel where video clips are actually already available. Photographs and video recordings. I'm very grateful to Felix Wong, who's there, who will operate the video interventions. He'll also be our official photographer and videographer this evening. Others, Holly, who's sitting outside, and Janice Pan, who will be sitting there, will probably also take photos, maybe Louise, I don't know. If you accept a photograph or video footage taken by Felix or anyone, I hope you agree that we may put it in our newsletter, on YouTube, etc., etc. Do you agree? Do you agree?
We agree.
Does anybody not agree? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, we're going to play Verna.
Greetings, everyone. Julian and I founded the Proverse Prizes because we saw that most literary prizes were restricted in some way. We wanted there to be prizes that everyone could enter. And this is what we created. Anyone, 18 years old or more, male or female, published writer or not, is eligible to enter for the Proverse Prizes, irrespective of nationality, residence, or citizenship.
Thank you very much to Vern. I'm sorry that Vern can't be with us this evening. So the Proverse Prize for an unpublished book-length work of fiction, non-fictional poetry, submitted in English, maybe in translation, was announced in 2008, and this is the 14th year of competition. The Proverse Poetry Prize is in its 7th year of competition. People from all over the world, as well as in Hong Kong, have entered for the prizes, including the books being published tonight, launched tonight. 21 have won the Proverse Prize, 42 have won the Publication Prize, or been published following entry for the prize, and a few hundred have had one or more poems published in the annual Proverse Poetry Prize anthology. Writers in Hong Kong and overseas have expressed their appreciation of our work. Some of them are here tonight. Prior to the pandemic, writers and poets have travelled from Australia, Chile, Estonia, Israel, New Zealand, and the USA to join these events. Some have been sponsored by a cultural body in their own country, others have financed themselves. This evening, we're very pleased that Miss Dami Jung of South Korea has travelled with her husband from the Netherlands, where she lives, to be with us. Dami. As already mentioned, Roger Yoren is here from Australia. We should tap you as well, Roger. We're most grateful that Hong Kong Arts Development Council has on a few occasions in recent years offered some support for one or other of the two prizes, seeing them as a contribution to the development and appreciation of literary arts in and of Hong Kong. The International Proverse Poetry Prize is for poems of any genre or style, generally no more than 30 lines long. Entrants may choose their own topic, or they may choose the annual set topic. These set topics may be interpreted in any way each entrant likes. In the past few years, the topics have been, in turn, the environment, happiness, refuge, plastic, hunger, and shielding. In 2022, the set topic was renewal. In 2023, the set topic will be space. Here are the results of the 2022 Proverse Poetry Prize. Third prizes: Carol Flake Chapman, Resurrection; Suzanne Cottrell, Haven Among Trees; Joanna Radwanska Williams, How the Fish Feel; George Watt, Boy in a Boat. Second prize, Denise O'Hagan, Pietà. First prize, Lena, I don't know how to pronounce Lena's name, Lena Gulbidar-Benkuchi. Anybody can do better than that. So Lena, first prize. Her poem is In November and the Clouds Will Gather. Specially mentioned, Stroke by Vinita Agrawal, Renewal by Dean Gessie, or So Says the Wind by Casey Hampton, Epiphany by Allegra Drostad Silverstein, and Watching the Dusk on a Rainy Night Musing by Louisa Tenard, who is here, Louisa. The names of all those who won a place in the Proverse Poetry Prize Anthology 2022 will be listed on the Proverse website and or the Proverse Facebook page and Twitter feed in a couple of days' time. Congratulations to all. We look forward to the publication of Mingled Voices 7, the Proverse Poetry Prize Anthology 2022 in April 2023. So Louisa, since you're present, I think you should come up and be acknowledged. So Louisa Tenard, the Proverse Prize is awarded for unpublished work. On average, it takes a year or more for publishers and authors to edit and prepare a winning work for publication. As a result, publication is about a year after entry for the prize. Here are the results of the Proverse Prize 2021 competition. 2 writers are awarded as winners of the International Proverse Prize 2021. Each receives the prize of publication and they share the cash prize. They are, in alphabetical order of surname, Vinita Agrawal, India, for her poetry collection Twilight Language; Dami, Jung, South Korea, New Zealand and the Netherlands, for her novel Jane, Frank and Mia. So here is Dami's. 3 entries have been awarded as winners of publication prizes. Tree Crime by Melody Kemp, Australia; Swimming in Blue Shadows, Short Stories and Poems by J.B. Linstroth, USA; Seeking Solace, a poetry collection by Nikhil Parekh, India. Congratulations to all these writers. I now invite Ms. Dami Jung, one of 2 winners of the Proverse Prize 2021, to come out to be acknowledged and to receive a copy of her novel, Jane, Frank and Mia. We invite Mr. Lee. Thank you very much. Now, the semi-finalists for the Proverse Prize 2022, they are Irene Bennett, USA; Gavin Burke, Ireland; Tim Johnson, USA; Tegan Smith, Hong Kong; Flora Chan, Hong Kong. Congratulations to all these writers. Other entries may be considered for supplementary publication prizes, but these won't be announced until publication. It's possible that among the semi-finalists whose names have been read out, those who do not advance to become the 1 or maximum 2 winners of the Proverse Prize may also be awarded supplementary prizes. We'll wait to see. Now there are 2 of the semi-finalists are here tonight. we'd like to invite them to come up to be acknowledged. And they also get a copy of one of my books. Margaret, would you like to do the presentation? We now come to the authors of the launching books and one relaunching book. One of our steps in preparing a book for publication is to work with the author to solicit advance comments about their book. I now introduce each author featured at this event by reading a brief snippet from these comments. I hope in due course you will all write comments about the books in order to support the authors and to support us, the publishers, also. Feedback is very, very welcome and very, very important. We'll now listen to pre-recorded videos sent by 4 authors who are not present. Right, so I introduce first of all Dr. J.P. Linstroth of Florida, USA. He won the International Proverse Prize 2019 with his poetry collection Epochal Reckonings. His new collection of short stories and poems, Swimming in Blue Shadows, is a winner of a 2021 Proverse Publication Prize. Philip Chetton, Proverse Prize winning author of The Snow Bridge and Other Stories, has written, people with the desire to understand and with a taste for a lyrical story will find Blue Shadows pleasurable and worthwhile.
Hello everyone, this is J.P. Linstroth. I am truly honored and humbled to speak to all of you during the Proverse Autumn Reception 2022. In regard to the publication of my book, Swimming in Blue Shadows, for the acceptance of one of the Proverse Publication Prizes. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dr. Werner Bickley and Dr. Julian Bickley and the entire Proverse editorial team for preparing my book, Swimming in Blue Shadows, for publication. In planning this volume of short stories and poetry, I had in mind something along the lines of a volume written by Ernest Hemingway, 3 stories and 10 poems, 1923. Something readable, something manageable, and of varied interest without overwhelming reading with a weighty tome of short stories and poems. I like the idea of the mixed genre, and I wanted to exhibit my range as a writer, to demonstrate my experimentation with short story and poetic forms, and to include some of the themes which interest me. Swimming in Blue Shadows contains 5 short stories and 10 poems. Each story grew out of one of my own personal experiences. Each of the stories in many regards represents a different phase of my life. Even so, I wanted the reader in each story to have a feeling of being there, to identify with what is happening, to be there in the present of the story. The poems also grew from personal experiences or center on themes of particular interest to me. AI, artificial intelligence, Afghanistan, COVID-19, coronavirus, Native Americans, love, depression, death, loss, and youthful exuberance. I chose as the title of the collection the phrase from the first short story in it to suggest the nearness of death and its innumerable and nebulous guises, to pinpoint especially how the various protagonists face death as if swimming in death's blue shadows, hidden yet there. The stories are eclectic and varied. Hog Ties, the first story, discusses hunting from a neophyte's perspective. I wanted to demonstrate the naivete of the protagonist and what hunting his firstborn meant to him. I also wanted, through the descriptions of fauna and flora, to convey the beauty of Florida's interior. The second story, To Be Forgotten, is in many ways about a failed relationship. More deeply, it explores the complexity of having a relationship with somebody who's mentally ill. There is an unwanted pregnancy in the relationship. We see different views of the narrator, protagonist, and the woman, and what the couple does The setting is Oxford, United Kingdom, and the University of Oxford is briefly described as a difficult institute of academic learning, especially in relation to the narrator's girlfriend and her travails with her studies. The third short story, Poor Red Clay, follows a Nahuatl Indian flower seller. Previously, I studied in Cuernavaca, Mexico for a summer course to learn Spanish, and it was from that experience that I wrote about a Mexican Indian flower seller. I suppose I was inspired in the writing of this particular short story by the Nahuatl Indians I had encountered in Cuernavaca, where I had seen similar flower sellers along the roadsides there. The fourth short story, Blooded to Dust, is based upon numerous bullfights I have seen throughout Spain and one in Mexico City. I was inspired in the writing of Hemingway's Death in the Afternoon. However, wanted to approach the spectacle of the bullfight from several different perspectives. One from the observer, another from the bull, and another from the matador. The last story, Imrul Itim Yap, is about an archaeological expedition with the U.S. University in Belize. The title is from Yucatecan Mayan and translates as "My beans and water," meaning one does not have much food and one is desperate. It's intended to be descriptive of the difficulties of participating in an archaeological excavation in the middle of the Belizean jungles. Like the short stories, the poems are also very much tied to my personal experiences with some similarities in theme: youthfulness, existentialism, death, and loss. As you see, there's a great deal of variety here in the subject's homes. I hope your interest has been aroused and that you will get a hold of a copy of the book and read it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. J.P. Linstroth. So Alicia has written a very daring book. When she brought it, she told me about it, and I thought it was very well worth writing. It's her interpretation of how you should read the Quran. She's saying that the Quran was written at a particular time for a particular group of people for a particular purpose, and therefore it should not be applied literally to the present day. But of course this is not what a lot of people think. So I think she's very daring, and I'd like to congratulate her again on her book.
Hi everyone, good evening. Is Islam necessarily against women's rights? Is Islam at odds with liberal ideals? These were the questions I had in mind when I started to write reading the Quran. I studied philosophy, I did a PhD in Anglo-American philosophy, but became fascinated with the Islamic world. I went to Egypt frequently. I love Arabic music and literature. While I hate the sexual harassment and religious conservatism there, I wanted to know what the Quran actually says. Are people practicing Islam according to its holy book or simply picking what they like? Liberals these days tend to argue that the people should be free to practice their religion, for example, to wear the hijab. However, as recent demonstrations in Iran shows us, such well-intended gestures are sometimes perpetuating patriarchal oppression rather than helping female Muslims. In my book, I put forward my position regarding these issues and lay out my reasoning. I argue against literal interpretations of the Quran and put forward a methodology for the interpretation of this key religious text. The gist of my argument is that many of the Muslims who follow doctrines derived from the Quran and the hadiths are referred to the sayings and actions of Prophet Muhammad, have not given enough consideration to the issues involved in interpreting these texts. I give textual evidence that Quranic passages were not intended to be perfect guidance suitable for all places and all times, and argues for the importance of independent thinking in following Islam. In the introduction of the book, I explain my motivations for writing the book, and then in chapter 2, I argue that Islam needs reformation, that we urgently need to fight against regressive trends. In chapter 3, I set out my principles for a different reading of the Quran. I put forward a methodology for interpreting the Quran consisting of 5 principles, namely uncertainty, non-literality, contextuality, individuality, and rationality. I argue that there are many uncertainties surrounding the exact meaning of many passages in the Quran and the Hadiths. So for the avoidance of error, people should be given maximum freedom. We should leave it to Allah to judge them at the last judgment. I contend that religious texts are often allegorical because the subject discussed are frequently beyond the experience of their readers. We cannot take such passages literally in contemporary life. We need to pay attention to the historical context of Islamic texts. We should critically and independently review religious texts, not accepting the views of religious scholars or officials blindly. We should reach a reasonable interpretation of Islam by means of modification and extrapolation to decide which are the key tenets and which are age-specific and non-essential. In chapter 4, I reveal passages in the Quran that have to do with the main tenets of Islam and reach liberal interpretations according to the principles given in the previous chapter. I argue that the main criterion for being a Muslim should be moral action rather than a confession of faith. In chapter 5, I reveal passages in the Quran that have to do with women, giving interpretations and unnerving passages compatible with feminism and gender equality. I contextualize the Quranic passages about women and argue that we should act in the spirit of improving women's status rather than follow exact but obsolete practices found in the Quran. These arguments culminate in a discussion of liberal reform in chapter 6. Here, I argue that we should leave judgment to Allah and take for the guidance of our lives those passages in the Quran that are the most spiritually exalted. In the last chapter, in chapter 7, I talk about the concept of philosophical religion. If we follow the position of the book, then there will be a rebirth of religion, including Islam. I would like to thank Dr. Gillian Beckley for her meticulous care in editing my book. If you have ever wondered about what to think about Islam, then my book, Reading the Quran, is for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Congratulations again. I now tell you what the advance comments said about Alicia's book. So the Right Reverend and the Right Honourable the Lord Carey of Clifton, Archbishop of Canterbury 1991 to 2002, has described Alicia's book as an important contribution to the modern debate. So it's a very distinguished person to read her book and give a comment. So we're very grateful to him. Ahmed al-Bashlawi, independent scholar, author and poet, has written, any fair reader of Lee's Reading the Quran cannot but agree with her that contemporary Muslims do not only need to think of peace with the cultural other, they need to think of their own peace of mind, which is, to the writer, the very root of the word Islam itself. So I'd like to congratulate Alicia for her very hard work and her daring. Well done. Nico has a very, very interesting writing style. He lives in Ahmedabad, Gujarat state, on the west coast of India. He's the author of 47 books of poetry, as recorded by the Limca Book of Records India, an annual Indian publication similar to what's now known as the Guinness Book World Records. He's a 10-time national record holder for his poetry. His new connection, Seeking Solace, is winner of a 2021 Proverse Publication Prize. George Watt, a Proverse Prize winner in 2021, has said, intriguingly, Parrick is to poetry what superheroes are to Marvel and DC Comics. Jason S. Polly, Associate Professor at Hong Kong Baptist University, has written, the speaker, at once innocent and wise, crowds every line with words, words, words. He thus invites his audience to luxuriate in the sensual experience of listening, of being present in the present, of life lived in the now. So,
Dr. Gillian and Dr. Werner Bickley. Fellow writers, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Ahmedabad, India. During the course of working with me to prepare my book Seeking Solace for publication, members of the Proverse team asked me what inspired me to write. I answered by sharing a poem I wrote some time ago entitled, It was God who inspired me to be a poet. This poem has an initial text, that is, the fathomless skies inspired me to fantasize, to perceive infinite kilometers beyond the realms of the extraordinary, into the most enigmatically tantalizing entrenchment of the inexplicably unknown. The unabashed tree leaves inexhaustibly inspired me to dance, shrug even the most infinitesimal ounce of apprehension entrapped in my frazzled veins, and then to exude in unparalleled ebullience with the vivacious breeze. The spellbinding dewdrops indefatigably inspired me to aspire, unstoppably quench the most languidly incarcerated arenas of my soul with the royal richness of sacredly replenishing Mother Nature. After giving different examples, the poem concludes, the jubilant horizons unremittingly inspired me to love, dedicate every beat of my heart to the immortal fabric of humanity and priceless mankind, till the very last breath of my inevitably truncated life. And it was the omnisciently unconquerable God. And it was the omnisciently unconquerable God who inspired me to be a poet, appreciate each of his unimaginably beautiful creation as above. Appreciate each of his unimaginably beautiful creations as above, and then ubiquitously disseminate their beauty through the power of the ever-pervading and mightily written poetic verse. The Proverse team also asked me what I hope to achieve by my writing. I answered this also in a poem I have written before, I write because. This poem, the poem has an initial text that is, I write to alleviate tumultuously bereaved humanity, impregnate optimistic beams of hope in the lives of all those miserably divested. I write to unrelentingly explore the enchanting beauty of this gigantic universe, bountifully assimilate all exotic goodness of the atmosphere in my wandering soul. I write to give the most voluptuously poignant expression to words, churn majestic artistry out of even what is the most inconspicuously threadbare. After different examples, this poem ends. I write to synergistically exist, execute my plethora of human activities with the most gorgeously melodious dexterity, jubilantly absorbing even the gruesomely acrimonious chapters of mystical life. Most importantly, I write because my heart wants me to astoundingly proliferate, into a mountain of tantalizing seduction. Even as hail rained down from the sky to forever lick the earth, even as hail rained down from the sky to forever lick the earth. Today, I am delighted to speak to you to introduce my poetry collection, Seeking Solace. On the occasion of its launch in Hong Kong by Proverse Hong Kong, at the victoriously auspicious instant of existence from the innermost dormitory of the soul, I want to thank Proverse and the entire team of different individuals for their unassailably exemplary effort and dexterity to facilitate the gloriously undefeated launch of my book. Thank you, Dr. Gillian Bickley and Dr. Werner Bickley, for your vision to support different upcoming writers like me wholeheartedly. Undoubtedly, I am gorgeously blessed to be reviewed by Professor George Watt of Adelaide, Australia, who has showered some keen and generous observations on the views I have expressed about the topic self-help, the core of this collection, Seeking Solace. I feel humbled that he has drawn some comparisons and found some similarities with the writing of some all-time greats like Voltaire and Whitman. Thank you, Professor Watt. I'm also grateful that Professor Jason S. Pauly of Hong Kong has taken the time to read my collection and make perspective comments. My book Seeking Solace encompasses and glorifies what I consider to be one of the most quintessential of human needs, that is self-help. My view is that in the current world scenario, disastrously fraught with terrorism, war, prejudice, unemployment of varied kinds, if you want to help another mortal, you must first help your own self. You must first help your own self. This is because I believe that positivity, because I believe that positivity can diffuse efficaciously from a soul which is harmonious itself with the spirit of victorious existence. Different poems embodied in this collection earnestly aim at applying the balm of uninhibited hope, optimistic enlightenment, righteous empowerment, and self-friendship upon humanity. From the innermost layer of the heart, a thank you to the soul of the victoriously holy Proverse for the gorgeously and abashed patronage to the poetry. Thank you, fellow poets and writers, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and I hope for taking an interest in my poetry in future, and supporting my work by reading it, and mentioning it to your friends. Thank you all, and take care.
So Nikhil Carrick's daughter videoed him, so you can see that very nice smile he was giving to his daughter, and we benefited from it as well. So, a very extraordinary poet, and very, very interesting writing, so do get a copy of his book. So that's Nikhil Carrick. So the next writer we will hear from is also from India, Vinita Agrawal of Indore, India. She is an award-winning poet, an editor, a translator, and a curator of literary events. Her poetry collection, Twilight Language, is a winner of the International Proverse Prize 2021. Ranjit Paskute, visiting professor of creative writing at Ashoka University, has written, "These finely wrought poems teach us how to redeem ourselves from isolation through the enlargement of spirit and senses that follows once we learn how to craft forms of solidarity with our neighbours across classes, races, species and seasons on this planet." And Ruth Padell, Professor of Poetry at King's College London, has called Twilight Language a beautiful achievement. She continues, "Vinita Agrawal's poems speak up for humanity, turning a compassionate lyric gaze on the physical landscapes and natural history of India, but also dire social injustice, and on domestic spaces like the private room of a lost grandmother curling softly around her absence. Above all, we meet the traveller inside you and love, a door left ajar in the winds.
Hello everyone, I'm Vinita Agrawal from Indore, India. It gives me the greatest pleasure to accept the Proverse International Prize 2021 for a book-length collection of poems. I'm deeply grateful to the entire team at Proverse for this honor and recognition of my work. Thank you. I'm overwhelmed by this. And I want to thank all of you for creating a space where something like this could happen, which is hugely validating and reaffirming for my poetry. All my life, I've been really close to my parents. They've both passed away now, and it's been years of living with their absence. But really, in so many ways, they're still with me, especially when I need their strength and support. They're a constant source of inspiration, so I want to accept this award for their intuitive wisdom, their sense of justice, their courage, and for their combined identity that lives on inside me. They taught me the values of respect, sincerity, and humility, and those qualities have seeped into the fullness of who I am. My relationship with the earth and to every plant and animal that inhabits it. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank my beautiful family, my husband of 32 years, Dinesh, my beloved son, Apurv, and my much-loved daughter-in-law, Heta. Above all, I'd like to thank my readers, folks who read and resonate with my work, people who read my poetry and take a minute from their busy lives to drop a line of appreciation, and even those who don't. Thanks are due also to my friends and colleagues who've proved pivotal in my journey as a poet. Thank you all for what you've taught me, for your untiring support of my work and of me as a person. I'd like to particularly thank Ruth Padel and Ranjit Hoskote, both of who read the manuscript of Twilight Language and spared time to write their thoughts about the book in advance of its publication. Thank you. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce my collection Twilight Language to you all. Twilight Language is a book-length collection of poems. It derives its name from the polysemic language and communication system of ancient India. Literally speaking, it is crepuscular, looking at dimness. In my book, language looks at the gloom of the pandemic era, the twilight faced by planet Earth in the face of the raging climate crisis, and the regular existential questions that we all seem to grapple with on a daily basis. Concepts are used as inducers of poems. They evoke perceptions in the same way that sensory experiences do. My book is a conduit of hope and a better tomorrow, a visage of my experiences in this vast universe that we all inhabit, a collection of poems that sincerely wish to make their way to you, the reader. I'd also like to bring in here the fact that we all have a unique connection with nature. Speaking for myself, since childhood, I was drawn to sand and the mica that shone in its grains, to trees and the sense of calm they imparted, to mountains and the deep silence they nurtured, to stones and the fascinating patterns embedded in them, to birds, their melodious singing at dawn, and to the companionship of animals. I seemed to draw energy from nature. Through my book, I hope each of you will recognize your own distinct connection with the earth and establish a practice of deep listening to nature. Last but not least, I'd like to say here that as poets, we're constantly searching for answers to the questions swirling around us. Even if we don't find the answers, we're compelled to at least write about things with honesty and gumption, in the hope of having addressed them somehow. Because poetry as an art is in the end looking for what is lost. In my book too, the poems address the worldwide disorientation of the past couple of years in multiple ways. And I sincerely hope that you as a reader will find solace from my poems and courage from my words. I sincerely hope that my collection will address at least partially your concerns with the issues plaguing our times. I'd like to end with this humble but earnest message, but not before I express my gratitude once again to Proverse, not before I reiterate how special the prize makes me feel and how much it means to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Vinita Agrawal. Jack Mayer, husband, father, wilderness lover, is a Vermont, USA writer and retired pediatrician, constantly pondering the mysteries of life. His poetry collection, Poems from the Wilderness, won the Proverse Prize 2019. This evening, as part of the regular Proverse publishing program, not the Proverse Prize program, we launch his new poetry collection, Entanglements, Physics, Love, and Wilderness Dreams. J. Perini, acting professor of English and creative writing, Middlebury College, Vermont, writes, Jack Mayer, a writer I've admired for years, draws close to the white heat of reality. These poems compel us to look, to listen. Mayer's poetry makes us somehow more alive. Alan Lightman, novelist, essayist, physicist, and educator, professor of the practice of the humanities at MIT, has written, in this collection of free verse, a physician artfully expresses his being in the world, blending science, wit, and the pang of human experience.
Hello, friends. Most of you probably don't think too much or too often about subatomic physics and quantum theory. Until recently, neither did I. But it has attracted my attention and my wonder. I credit this partly to dramatic discoveries and explorations of the incredibly small and large, the unfathomably old, and the inscrutably mysterious dark matter and dark energy. Scientists discover subatomic particles and energies like modern-day Merlins. We see light from the instant after the Big Bang. Our Newtonian paradigm is challenged, our very view of reality and our place in nature turned on its head. One of the giants of this new physics, Erwin Schrödinger, postulates his cat being alive and dead at the same time. A particle on one side of the universe simultaneously affects a particle on the other side of the universe. I am fascinated and tantalized by this compelling strangeness. It seems that uncertainty and probability are the raw ingredients of reality. I especially think about this during my immersion in wilderness, hiking alone on the trails of my beloved Green Mountains in the United States state of Vermont. On these solo hikes, I compose poems, then copy my first draft into the nearest shelter's logbook under my trail name, Mountain Poet. As a hiker and canoeist, I have experienced the healing power of wilderness, the mystery of belonging to wilderness, of independence and interdependence. I am a retired pediatrician and a writer, not a physicist. In trying to reconcile how one part of nature manifests itself to any other part of nature, a dense web of interactions, I find poetry. An entity exists only by virtue of its interactions. This trail, this white pine, that wren high in a beech tree, reality itself is all about entanglements and relationships. As a physician, I have spent my career with children and families. My doctor poems, inspired by my pediatric practice in rural northern Vermont on the Canadian border, are manifestations of my quest to find meaning in my patients' often difficult lives. Unique connections are unearthed. The durable thread that connects these musings is our entanglements, our fundamental connections. Our quest for meaning depends on relationships, the matrix within which we endeavor to understand. Like the fundamental physics that defines the mechanisms of life, we are entangled. There are no equations in this collection, and the reader need not know quantum theory to appreciate the mysteries explored, the connections affirmed. This collection, though grounded in quantum theory and physics, illuminates that most complex of all experiences, love. We are nothing if not in relation to something or someone else. Reality depends on relationships. I wanted to be sure that my take on the physics is accurate. To that end, I have asked a few physicists to review my collection, and they have agreed that I mostly got the physics right. The implications of this strange physics are a portal to deeper understanding of our place in this perplexing universe. I invite you to sample these visions. If I am successful, our relationship, dear friends, will alter us both simultaneously. Many thanks for listening and considering my collection and my perspective.
Thank you very much to Dami. He won the Proverse Poetry Prize single poems by him. And we're doing his audiobook at the moment. We're releasing his audiobook. Now there's only one writer left. Dami Jung was born in South Korea, emigrated with her family to New Zealand, and now lives in the Netherlands. She's previously published in the Korean language. Her novel, Jane, Frank and Mia, her first work written and published in English, is a winner of the International Proverse Prize 2021. Oscar nominee, documentary film director Yi Seung-jung, writing from Seoul, South Korea, has written, "All forms of art can reflect the true nature of reality." In the novel, Jane, Frank and Mia, the author describes a multitude of difficult situations that she might have experienced as an East Asian female immigrant in Europe. Through the subtle description of everyday life and the dialogue between the various characters, the author reveals the wounds and scars that she bore, guiding the reader to encounter a world that's both unfamiliar and familiar at the same time. But ultimately, this novel will allow you to see a life with value beyond the pain and difficulties. Lawrence Gray, founding president of the Hong Kong Writers' Circle, has written from the UK, "If you're a fan of Korean soap operas, you'll like this one. It's a take on the family drama of a mismatched multicultural couple, one with a Zen approach to life, being Korean, while the other, being a very straight-laced Dutchman, has a touch of borderline personality disorder. Throw into the mix the stress that having a child brings into their lives, the stress it imposes upon their biracial child, a far too empathetic driving instructor and a teenage pimp, and you get a medley of self-absorption that cannot possibly end well, unless someone picks up a kimbap roll and uses it to slap some sense into the characters." Hayley Solomon, a Proverse Publication Prize winner in each of 2016 and 17, has written from New Zealand, "Jane, Frank and Mia is an extraordinary story about love. It's about finding oneself, understanding one's past, and controlling one's trajectories. More than that, it's resoundingly about social, cultural, and cross-cultural prejudice. In the heart of even the most liberal of societies, bigotry is close, ever close to the surface. The often tragic consequences are revealed in the ripple effect on the lives and choices of Jane, Frank, and Mia. The plot itself is intriguing, has many moments of tension, extreme joy, fear, pleasure, insight, injustice, and confusion. The environment is multilingual and multicultural, covering topics like assimilation versus identity loss, idealism, disappointment, growth, and courage. Empathy is a central thematic element, with evolution through insight being preeminent. A wonderful, nuanced book, thought-provoking, heartening, interesting. Dami.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you for the kind words. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here at the Proverse Autumn Reception. It is an honor to be named one of the winners of the Proverse Prize 2021, along with Miss Vinita Agrawal. Congratulations to you too. When I was writing this story of Jane, Frank, and Mia, I could only dream about a day like today. I wanted to write this story for a long time, and it started with the image of a woman standing at the bus stop with a baby. Then a teenage girl who looked lost and confused presented herself. However, it wasn't until Frank came along and brought them together that I could begin their story. And I decided to write Jane, Frank, and Mia in English after my daughter wrote me a letter on my birthday. She told me she'd been reading my writings in Korean with the help of Google Translate. I realized I need to write for the close ones in my life to understand me. Like Jane in my novel, a song by Whitney Houston has been my lifeline. My family immigrated to New Zealand from South Korea, and at my first school, the music teacher made us sing The Greatest Love of All every week at the school assembly. And I learned and memorized the lyrics religiously because I didn't want to stand out when everyone sang them. Since then, whenever I was in a dark place in my life, this song gave me the strength to go on. And there were so many more songs and books that I held on to. And if this story of Jane, Frank, and Mia could offer even a fraction of the consolation I received from these songs and books to anyone, I would feel fulfilled. Writing a story you never know will be read can be very lonely. Often it feels like finding your way in a tunnel. And getting your story published is even harder. Even if you accomplish this through hard work and plenty of luck, it doesn't guarantee the book readers. But I thought, I want to write this for myself, even if no one else would like it. I was happy with the story I had written and loved the characters that I loved and cried with together. And when someone else says that your story is worth being told, there comes the light in the tunnel. So I am grateful to Dr. Gillian Bickley and Dr. Verna Bickley, who founded Proverse Prize. Proverse Prize opens the door to every writer in the world, regardless of where they live. And thanks to the judges of the Proverse Prize who had faith in Jane, Frank, and Mia. And I have learned so much from working with the editors of Proverse Publishing, whose patience and knowledge have given this book shine. It's been a great experience and I feel privileged to be part of it. And many thanks to everyone here who loves books and appreciates the Proverse team and their dedication to literature. I hope you will join Jane, Frank, and Mia on their journeys, and this book will find its way to your heart. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Mr. Lee Yong-ho is a consul of the Korean Consulate General in Hong Kong and director of the Korean Cultural Center, Hong Kong. We must all go to visit now that we have met Mr. Lee. We invite you to address us. Thank you very much.
안녕하세요. In Korean. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Lee Young-ho. I'm a director of Korea Cultural Center and a consul of the Korean Consul General. I have two positions in Hong Kong. I'm so honored to be here with you today, and I'm sincerely offer my congratulations to Dr. Julian and Dr. Venus for hosting this meaningful award ceremony of the Proverse Prize for unpublished writing. And it's my great pleasure to offer my sincere congratulations to winners, including this Dami Jung. Before I tell you a small short story about me. Before coming to Hong Kong, I used to work for the Smithsonian in Washington DC in 2012 to 2014. So that was the first time for me to live in foreign country. So and then I moved to Canada in 2014 to 2018. In United States and Canada, going to work was like traveling the foreign country alone. So as soon as I left from my sweet home, I was somewhat nervous, and I felt like everyone looking at me. So I guess all of us who are living in the other country feel what I felt in the United States and Canada. So especially United States and Canada is kind of the Western society, and the culture is totally different from my home country, Korea. So now I'm just remembering the present and good memory to move on. It's hard to compare my small experience with Dami Jung's experience. So I assume Miss Dami Jung was in New Zealand and Netherlands. There are lots of happening to the Miss Dami Jung. Must need to face. Even though it's a novel, but I think much of the contents in her novel might be based on her real story. Maybe she is sharing with us how she felt when living in other country, and as a Korean woman, through her book, Jane, Frank, and Mia. I think not only in the home country, even we are living in our home country, sometimes we are feeling we are alone, but we can learn from our book that we are not the only one who feel alone. And we are closely intertwined with other people living in the world, and we will be able to look for ourselves and our life between familiar and unfamiliar situations. Now in Hong Kong, Hong Kong is a multicultural society, I think, and Hong Kong is at the center of Asia, so connecting the East and the West. I feel much comfortable here in Hong Kong, especially today with you, with all of you. Lastly, I deeply appreciate the effort and contribution of Dr. Julian and Dr. Thomas to make this meaningful event to make happen. And also, I'm so thank you to give me an opportunity to meet all of the world famous writers in one place. I hope all of you to enjoy this ceremony and the winners literary books. Thank you. 감사합니다.
For that very meaningful talk. That went splendidly. I think the sequence, as it turned out, was perfect. We should thank Felix very much indeed. Thank you. Now, are there any questions? Any comments or questions? Anybody like to ask any of the authors present anything? Yes?
I'm fascinated by everything. But I wonder what inspired you to write the book about really, yes.
Many things. Well, I guess it's mostly because of my experience in Egypt. Because I love the cultural stuff. But socially, it's terrible.
How much time were you in Egypt?
I went for many summers, each summer holiday from 2015 to 2019. Yeah, I was there first studying Arabic and then learning to play the oud, the lute-like instrument. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, I guess that ends the formal part of the evening, but don't go away. We're supposed to have some cookies and petit four now, and the bar is still open, so if you want another drink. Please buy some books. As I said, you can see all the ones that have been launched this evening on the table, so you can see them there. The envelopes are there in case you would like to get one, and you can just put your name, cash, and get the book yourself to avoid breaking social distancing at a crowded table. You can also purchase copies on Amazon and the Chinese University Hong Kong Press. I'd now like to give particular thanks to the Helena May and the Helena May staff. They're always willing and efficient. I also thank Felix. It's good to come back. It's good to come back. You did very well. Thank you very much indeed. I'd like to thank Holly for selling books. I don't know whether she's done so yet. In the future. Thanks very much for spotting her. I'd also like to thank our printer, Mr. Jackson M., our cover designer, Mr. Dicky Wu. The Chinese University of Hong Kong Press is always very supportive. And of course, without Dr. Bella Bickley, none of us would be here. Thank you all very much for your support and for joining us this evening. Now we can relax. We have no more responsibilities. We can just enjoy each other's company, talk, drink, and eat. And please remember when you do go to use the Stay Home Safe app to say that you have left.